Okay, welcome back. The current visual is for the Earthquake Versatiller, and just got done assembling it here. Now it's going to be the first startup. Have to say this has actually been a good little tiller. It's a front tine tiller, but it actually works pretty well. Now, just for side notes, it doesn't dig up undisturbed ground. It'll barely scratch the grass off of it. So if you're going to use this for a new garden or even a flower bed or whatever you're going to put in, you need to take a shovel and turn up the dirt, and then you go over it with this and it'll break it up nicely. But a good thing for that is if you do turn it over with the shovel first and you hit a big rock, you'll find it with the shovel instead of the tiller, because when it hits that, it'll jump on you. Luckily, I haven't had that problem, but I've had it in the past with other things I've used. So, but back to reviewing on this, it's actually a good little tiller. And the last front tine tiller I used was many, many years ago. My dad had one, and it had the pull start was a rope with a knot in it. You wrapped around the bell crank, and then you gave it a pull on it as hard as you could, and hopefully it would start. Yeah, I mean, some people may be familiar with that, but if you've never experienced that little joy in life, it's probably just as well. Okay. Had to go through, pull that last tag off, got it fueled up. Managed to spill some on it, but luckily it all wipes off. After a quick once over, it's time to start it up. Yeah, so just basically, there's an on-off switch. Turn it on. Make sure your fuel's in full run position. There's a 3-position choke, full choke, half choke, and off. It's just a little spring switch deal. Nothing fancy. Check your handlebars. Make sure everything's tight. Slack on the cable. That way the tines aren't engaged. The sides are all intact. And here we go. I'm going to say this actually started up rather nicely. First pull, no problem. And I've never heard of Viper engines until operating this particular piece of machinery. I have to say it's a good little motor. It's 6.5 horse, plenty of power. The machine actually digs up dirt nicely, as long as it's been worked over once before. It'll dig it up nicely. But you get to see that here in just a little bit. Of course, I'm going to play with the throttle and see if it actually moves a little more than it does. It only moves about half an inch to go from slow to high, and it's kind of a interesting thing. So you can push it by hand a little bit further, but it doesn't actually slide. I mean, you gotta kind of force it. So it must have like an automatic thing as it's running, and it needs more power. It just starts sucking more air and fuel, and it just opens itself up a little bit. Not sure, I haven't actually got it bogged down where it needed to do that, but like I said, it runs pretty good. Nice little power. Should be able to see it start up here in just a second. Tilling up the garden. Oh, I'm going to check the oil first. Yeah, I already filled it up, but yeah, when you fill them up, the instructions say to fill it up to the threads. There is a little dipstick on the oil cap, but they use the same method a lot of machines use. Just fill it up to the threads. If you get too much, it just flows out over the threads. You can't really overfill them. but you don't want to because it takes just under a quart to fill it up. Okay, here's my little patch of a garden that I'm trying to work on this year. Second start, pulled, first pull. I gotta say, I enjoy that. And this tiller engine actually starts easier than my lawnmower, so I'm happy with that. And with all front tine tillers, you gotta work a little bit. You get stuck, pull it back a little bit, drop it down, and it'll pull itself out of the rut. That's pretty common with front tine tillers, so if you've ever used one, you're familiar with it. If you've never used one, it's just one of those things to look out for. You're gonna have to work it, hold it back, let it go forward, pick it up, stop it. Just normal use stuff. You'll figure it out as you work it. Hopefully you're not trying to bust up anything with rocky soil, because tine hits a rock, it wants to jump on you. Which if you ever use a tiller, yeah, they all do a little bit, but front tine tillers are really bad about jumping around. This one doesn't do too bad, but it still does it. You can see it from watching the video here. So, my little garden here, this front section here is about 11 feet wide. And then all the way in the back at the top of the screen there, it's about 7 foot wide. Now this particular day, it just rained like 4 days before, real heavy rain. And we got standing water over there on the top right side. And that back right corner, my little dirt patch here, it's kind of muddy, so you'll see it here a little bit when I go back there with the tiller. But I have to say the rest of it's pretty high and dry. It mixed in the compost I've got here on top of it just nicely. Last year I tried growing in the beautiful red clay soil, and I got absolutely no results with my first attempt with anything. I tried beans, sunflowers, tomatoes, peppers. What else did I stick in the garden? Great disappointment. Onions. I tried onions last year. Nothing grew. Nothing. So after about a month and nothing growing at all, I decided to throw some purple beans I had. I think they're called lavender beans. And they grow on vines. Well, it didn't distinguish bush or vine on the package, so I was hoping it would be like a bush bean. Well, they all grew. They grew splendidly. They just grew over everything. It's a wild little jungle of bean vines that didn't produce a single bean. Lots of pretty purple flowers, that's it. Okay. Here's the tiller, the approach. It actually mixes up pretty good. Gotta hold it back a little bit just to get it to kind of blend everything in, but it actually does a pretty good job. I'm happy with it. Just gotta get used to the whole backing up, turning around, back up, do it again, do it some more. One thing I've noticed, if you pull it backwards, it leaves a nice, pretty trail of dirt all ground up nicely. Whereas when you go forward, you watch there, it's got the wheels, it's got the depth gauge digging pretty little ruts. Then you have your footprints all over it. So then it doesn't really make it to the point where like it's nice and pretty you want to plant it. It takes some work. If you go backwards with it, it's all smooth. So in the initial run, go forward, then pull it backwards, it seemed to work okay. So I've got about a minute left here. Unfortunately, my video did end on me early when I was filming it. I ran out of room on my memory card on the camera. But I only missed like a couple passes, so it wasn't too bad. And it only took about 20 minutes or so to go through and blend all this stuff in. I had some old grass clippings in the back there, and it didn't have any problem with that. compost blended in nicely with the existing dirt. And that's it for the video. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. And if you haven't seen the other videos, please check them out. And if you haven't, please subscribe. Thank you. Have a good day.